DNA evidence confirms bear linked to fatal Florida attack on elderly man and a dog. Let's get into the story.
Sometimes you hear things that just, they make you stop and really think. And what we're diving into today, it's a story coming out of rural Florida, near Naples.
Yeah.
Pretty shocking, actually. A fatal black bear attack on an elderly man and his dog.
It's truly a tragic and thankfully very rare kind of event. Our information on this comes straight from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the FWC. Their lab work confirmed the details.
Right, so the FWC confirmed it. Our goal here really is to understand the facts, what exactly happened, and, what does an event like this tell us about how we're living alongside wildlife? Okay, so let's get into it. The details that came out are, well, they're pretty stark. We're talking partial remains of an 89-year-old man, Robert Markel, found inside a 263-pound male black bear.
That's correct. And importantly, this wasn't just circumstantial. DNA evidence definitively linked that specific bear to Mr. Markel, to his home, and sadly, to his deceased dog as well.
Wow, that level of DNA confirmation, that leaves no room for doubt, does it?
Oh, none at all. It's critical evidence. It just moves us past any speculation and gives us a really solid basis for understanding this specific terrible incident.
And the timeline seems pretty clear, too. It happened early Monday morning, just east of Naples, which puts it right near the Big Cypress Wildlife Management Area. That location, being so close to a big wildlife zone, seems significant.
Absolutely. That interface, where human settlement pushes up against wild areas, that's a key element when you're trying to understand these kinds of encounters, however unusual they are.
Okay. And the investigation, it sounds like they acted fast. FWC captured and euthanized 3 bears nearby. That's standard procedure in these situations, right?
Yes, it is. When there's an attack like this, safety protocols dictate capturing bears in the immediate vicinity.
And crucially, the bear linked by DNA to the attack tested negative for rabies.
What does that tell us? Rabies is often the first thought with unusual animal aggression. It is. So ruling out rabies is important. It means we have to look at other potential drivers for this kind of behavior, which, again, is highly unusual for a black bear. Not typical predatory behavior, generally speaking.
Right. And the way this was discovered is also heartbreaking. It was Mr. Markel's grandson who found the scene. His 911 call apparently described the camper being torn apart, finding the dog already deceased, and his deep worry for his grandfather. He mentioned his grandfather couldn't run or even walk well.
Yes, that vulnerability is unfortunately likely a factor here. It underscores the potential risks when people with limited mobility live so close to wildlife habitats.
Just awful. And they found Mr. Markel and his dog about 200 yards apart. But as you said, wildlife experts keep emphasizing this point. Violent encounters with Florida black bears are extremely rare. They usually want nothing to do with people.
That's the typical behavior, yes. Avoidance is their go-to response.
So what might cause such a major deviation from that normal behavior?
Well, several factors can contribute, though it's hard to pinpoint one single cause. Increased human expansion, like we mentioned, leading to more habitat overlap is a big one. Basically, as we move into their areas, interactions just become more frequent. And while the probability of a dangerous encounter stays low for any given interaction, the sheer number of interactions goes up.
And that ties into the bear population itself, doesn't it? Florida black bears, they were once threatened, but they've made a big comeback.
A very significant comeback. The statewide estimate is now around 4,050 bears. It's actually a major conservation success story.
It is. But does a larger, healthier population, even if individual bears are still wary, sort of inherently increase the chance of these tragic outlier events happening just by sheer numbers?
Statistically, yes. A larger population, even with a very, very low individual risk of aggression, can mean that these rare events might occur slightly more often than when the population was much smaller. It really highlights the need for ongoing vigilance and preventative measures in those areas where people and bears share the landscape.
Understandably, this incident raises serious safety questions for residents living near these wild habitats. What are the main concerns now?
I think the primary concern is always finding that balance. How do we ensure human safety in these shared spaces while also continuing to support wildlife and conservation? It's not simple. It requires a really multifaceted approach: education, proper waste management, community planning.
And the immediate advice from officials is pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Be vigilant, follow the safety precautions for bear country. Things like securing garbage, removing attractants like pet food.
Exactly. Those standard precautions, they seem basic, but they are absolutely vital. They're a constant reminder that we need to coexist carefully and respect the wildlife we live alongside.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, what we have is a confirmed, though very rare, fatal black bear attack. DNA evidence locked it down. And it really throws a spotlight on this increasing overlap, this interface between human communities and wildlife populations as our spaces converge more and more.
Precisely. And it really forces us as a society to think hard about how we manage that convergence. How do we balance successful conservation, like the bear population rebound, with the undeniable need for community safety?
Which really leaves us, and you listening, with a big question to ponder, doesn't it? Given that Florida's black bears are thriving, which is good news in many ways,
Yeah.
and human development continues to expand, how can communities best strike that balance? How do we protect both the wildlife and the people living right there on the edge of wild Florida? It's something we need to figure out as we share this space.
What safety measures should we take on bear prone areas? Comment it. Thanks.